Now, let me start with you, Mr. Kayode.
Okay.
Nigeria's domestic and external debt portfolios review strategic borrowing trends. And if we're to look at what is there, federal government does not see anything wrong with borrowing, especially to finance infrastructure project. But it looks like you and your colleagues, economists, generally have an issue with this. They say this is a burden to Nigeria. Why is this so?
Well, generally, you look at different forms of funding available to you. You have budget deficits, then you have huge infrastructural gaps to cover up. The infrastructure stock to GDP in Nigeria is just about 30%. Many developed countries have as much as 70% of their GDP as infrastructure stock. So Nigeria has a long way to go. You have to look at different options. And over the years, we've been borrowing, both locally and from abroad. So the challenge now is, have we reached a point whereby we need to begin to look more critically at alternative funding sources, looking at which one comes cheaper, better to manage. And the government is beginning to say, okay, we have the economy, it's robust, it's massive, we have different sources within, and we can also attract investment from abroad to fund the infrastructural needs. If you look at the pension fund, for instance, it's in excess of 16 trillion naira. That's about $20 billion or thereabout. And the estimate in Nigeria is that you need about $3 trillion or thereabout to cover the infrastructural gap annually. And that's far beyond what government can do, far beyond what even borrowing can achieve. So the wise thing at this point is to create a system, a platform, whereby both private sector people within Nigeria and foreign investors from abroad can begin to take more active participation in the economy, especially when it comes to funding infrastructure. And I think they've had some very good models which they can follow. Yeah, the important thing is to look at, is to make sure that your environment is conducive, is to make sure that your economy is viable in terms of having stability, security, and all that. And government has done quite a lot. We now have what seems to be foreign exchange stability, which should be an encouragement to foreign investors. So rather than going for borrowing, it's only natural that government explores those other funding sources which are cheaper. They come with a lot of commitments too. People are putting in their money. They're going to make sure they put it in the right place. They do their due diligence far more than what the public sector would do. Okay. Then they have what government now needs to do is to make sure that the regulatory environment is good, the operating environment is good, big enough to accommodate all kinds of investments. Don't forget that Nigeria has the biggest consumer market in the whole of Africa. We have the population, we have the needs. Our needs are also a part of our problems. Our problems are part of our needs. So government government is looking at the right direction by saying, let's reorder our funding dynamics in such a way that we do less of borrowing, either from within or from multilateral agencies, and begin to encourage private sector people. And if you look at the funding mechanism for Lagos-Calabar Expressway, there is a lot of room for private sector investment. And you know, here we sit on top of what has been a major success story for private sector participation in infrastructure. That's the Eco-Atlantic. We are going into a realm where government will not be able to even fund infrastructure to a level that can adequately support growth. So
before we get that, that's in a minute. You know, this is not the first time the federal government was saying we need to borrow less, but have we really practiced it? But tonight what you've said is that borrowing is not bad, but we must also look for other sources of financing.
Absolutely.
Is that it?
Absolutely. You see, when people talked about borrowing, there are different reasons why government will borrow. Apart from the fact that you need that money, you also look at other strategic reasons why you have to borrow, for instance, from abroad. You're in a country for the past 4 years, we've struggled to have convertible currencies sufficient enough to strengthen our local currency, which is the naira. So if you have to go abroad and look for money, it's be desirable, and we've tried that over the last 20, 25 years. You bring in that money, the moratorium is good, the rate of interest is good, then it beefs up your stock of convertible currency. But you see, the more we do that, the more we also come under pressure to repay these loans, both the principal and the interest. So what government is trying to do is, yes, we have the laxity to borrow, but it's putting on pressure on public finance. Our revenue to pay back these loans are not as strong as it should be. So let's begin to look for other funding.
Have we even started exploring those alternative sources of funding? But let me